Second and 10. Emery, straight ahead and right in. John Emery with the 19-yard touchdown run for the Tigers.
Hello and welcome to Tigers Roar. I am Jonathan Poche, joined as always by the Budman, Buddy Songy. You see it, we're rocking the sunglasses. LSU drops a game to Texas A&M, now moves to 9-3, 6-2 in the SEC. Kyle Field was rocking. It was a great crowd. Texas A&M has a lot of young players. They have been injured during the season, but they get a couple stars back. Put together a big game against LSU. It was their Super Bowl, Budman. It was all things kind of working against LSU for a letdown game. They had their destiny in their hands, all the future in front of them, looking towards the SEC championship game, hoping for a playoff berth, but all that's out the window now. They drop a game 38-23 in Texas. So, Budman, bringing you in really early. Good to see you on a Tuesday afternoon.
Good to see you, JP. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know we all ate a lot of turkey, and I think some of the LSU players probably ate a little bit too much turkey. A half a step slow, didn't have a good game plan. And obviously, with Jaden Daniels not making the right read and the fumble and the scoop and score, momentum got on Texas A&M's side, and they were the better team, JP. I don't think anybody that watched that game, and in case you're just tuning in, we do wear sunglasses when there are bad losses, and this was a bad loss. But I got to ask, what have we become as a society when we have these talking heads who are sitting here trying to spiel and spit out, oh, it's the worst loss ever, yada, yada, yada. Folks, if you know anything about this LSU football team, they had 40 scholarship players about a year ago.
Yep.
They had to recruit 15 studs. They brought in another 15, 17, 18 via the transfer portal. And you put all of that in a gumbo pot. And you do some cooking. We all do some cooking. The first time you ever did jambalaya or a gumbo or a casserole or a big dish, did you get it right?
I'll tell you, it wasn't perfect the first time, Budman.
No. And so my point is that quit all the overreactions. This is a team that has been in a rebuild. They are beset by injuries. Now we got to worry about Jaden Daniels and his help this weekend. Yep. But you didn't have Josh Williams for a second consecutive game. And I thought the key injury out, no Jarek Bernard, converse. Jay Ward had to go over and play a corner. So yep. My whole point is that, yes, they were outplayed, they were outpartied, they were outcoached, all of that. But give A&M a little bit of credit and understand that in year one, Brian Kelly has done the following. Beat Auburn and Florida on the road for the first time ever in history.
Right.
Beat Alabama in his first year. Mm-hmm. And if you watch this team, JP, they haven't been that consistent. So, look, a bad loss. Yeah. You mentioned all this CFP talk. I thought that was stupid at the time. I said so. I said, playoffs? Playoffs? I'm no Jim Mora or Jim Mora Jr. You know what he does. But that all being said, that was ridiculous to think LSU was going to go in there and beat A&M and then beat Georgia and get into the top four. They don't have the players. They don't have the depth. This is a rebuild. And be thankful that 9-3 is what the schedule and the record is going to show. Now, this is a tough challenge. You know what happened the last time LSU played Georgia? LSU beat them by bunches. 36-16 here and 37-10 in Atlanta. But be thankful for this first year and quit putting so emphasis on one bad egg. Right. You saw it on the high school level. If all things are not working, coaching, playing, and health, it's not that easy to continue to win in the SEC.
Well, you brought up a lot of good points, Bud, man, and one you hit on just now was the consistency. And Coach Brian Kelly's been preaching it the entire season. It's all about the process and buying in and committing to it fully. And he understood that you had to bring your best game each week in the SEC West. This is his first year going through the gauntlet, so he hadn't really experienced it, but he knew from playing SEC teams that it was going to be a test each and every week. He talked about it last week that this is going to be a team that's going to play up to you. This is going to be their Super Bowl. It's going to be the biggest game that they've had. Only won one other game in the SEC, but they still had a sellout crowd. They stormed the field after the game. They beat the number 5. Look, you storm the field, you win 2 SEC games. I mean, I get it. It was a big win. Good moving forward for the program. A lot of those the quarterback looked very good against LSU. That guy's going to be a star for Texas A&M. You get Achane back. He goes for, 215 yards. Harold Perkins is a non-factor in the game. Jay Roy was a leading tackler for the defense. So a lot of things worked against LSU, but you mentioned the scoop and score. LSU just forced A&M to 2 3-and-outs after halftime. You figure Matt House had made adjustments. We're about to see LSU really get into this game. It was tied up, and then the scoop and score for A&M. LSU never recovered from that momentum swing. And
look, I know that you have a catch-22 without Josh Williams, okay? So now you're pitching the ball to Noah Cain, trying to let him run outside. He's the slowest running back you got. You've got to feed a guy. My dad always told me this. Man, when a guy's hot on the basketball court, feed him the ball.
Yeah.
John Emery should have got 15 carries on Saturday night. He wasn't fumbling, and he was running with a lot of force, had 3 touchdowns. Good to see number 4 get his confidence back. But you could tell early on, and JP, you and I could call plays when you have 7 of 8 third downs in the first half, and it's 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
They were pushing LSU's defensive line back. You mentioned Achane coming back. Really one of the better backs in the conference.
No doubt.
5'9", about 185, but, man, he puts his foot in the ground, makes a cut. And then Evan Stewart, a prize recruit at wide receiver. Connor Wegman, their freshman quarterback, they burned the red shirt on him. Not like Garrett Nussmeier.
Right.
They burned the red shirt on him. He played well. But Harold Perkins wasn't playing in the spy, wasn't really rushing, had him guarding in space, and let's be honest, when a 320-pound guy gets his hand on Harold Perkins, he's not going to be effective. So a lot of mistakes, but I think you got to look at the big picture and be appreciative. In year 1, all those things that we alluded to in that first segment actually did happen. And I'm cautiously optimistic that they will play better this weekend. But you got to get Jaden Daniels and all those guys back healthy to have a chance.
Right, Coach Brian Kelly did talk about matchups, how there's a lot of people on Georgia's roster that do provide matchup problems for LSU, but it's going to be a team effort. The defense has to step it up. Coach Brian Kelly doesn't believe in a letdown. He believes that his team is going to fight against Georgia. They look forward to the opportunity. They understand this is the #1 team in the nation for a reason. They've been the best team all season. They are very consistent what they do on offense and defense. So a tough challenge for LSU, but I think Coach Brian Kelly's team is certainly looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, by the way, back to A&M for a second. They have beaten LSU 3 consecutive times in College Station. Now, the previous to this year was the COVID year, and then, of course, before that was the cheat job in 7 overtimes. And so, look, you got to respect everybody. Kirby Smart, 0-2 against Coach O and LSU. I have done some pregame shows over there. Of course, it was the Georgia Dome at the time, now the Mercedes-Benz Dome. There are going to be so many black and red clad Georgia Bulldogs. And look, this is funny. You know how people get intimidated with the tiger bait and all that? Yeah. When you see these middle-aged 50, 60-year-old, 70-year-old guys, along with the kids, all barking, there's going to be a bunch of barking dogs come Saturday afternoon in Atlanta. And look, there's a reason Georgia is a 17.5-point favorite right now.
We'll take our first break of the evening. Come back and join us. You are watching Tigers Roar. Before we go to that break, we'll remind you guys, check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Pelican Broadcasting. If you miss anything on this program, any programs in the past you want to check out, go check out our YouTube page. Once again, youtube.com/Pelican Broadcasting. Subscribe while you're there. Click the notification button so you're alerted every time we post something new here at the Pelican. Don't go anywhere. We'll take this break, come back, and you'll see some footage from this past Saturday. You are watching Tigers Roar.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Fruget Jr., and I am a general dentist at Fruget Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Visit Treads & Care Tire Company's new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for over 50 years, Treads & Care is known for quality automotive repair and top-notch customer service.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
Right now, at both locations of Team Honda, the Dream Deal sales event is now even better. For a limited time, get 0% financing on a great selection of certified Hondas. The savings are yours at Team Honda on Seagan Lane in Baton Rouge and Team Honda of Acadiana on I-49, just south of Opelousas.
We continue here on Tigers Roar, still rocking the shades because LSU, my De La Salle Cavaliers, and the Saints all lost this weekend. It was a rough weekend of football, bud, man.
Shutout for the Saints. I am sorry. JP told me, I guess 4 weeks ago, he said, you know, I don't know if Dennis Allen is head coach material. He's a great defensive coordinator. I thought the transition would be a little smoother. I'm not a Pete Carmichael fan. I don't think he's done a good job. And they've had problems with Andy holding on to the football and how they're going to use Taysom Hill. Yep. But it was a stinker. Hey, De La Salle, great year. Once again, I think people sometimes forget when you're talking about football games that you have other things going on in your life. And what I'm saying to that is that, you know, not are you going to be at your best every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's tough to get a team up more than 5 or 6 times. And as we know, sometimes you got to give credit to the other team. Texas A&M was better. Lafayette Christian was better. And the 49ers are a good team. But the Saints got to get inside the end zone. And, oh, by the way, Alvin Kamara, he dropped a guy in the parking lot in Las Vegas. Well, guess what? He dropped 2 fumbles this last weekend. Can't have that, especially inside the red zone.
Juwan Johnson drops 2 potential touchdowns, and then going towards the end of that game, Andy Dalton puts a nice pass to the corner of the end zone. Taysom Hill, who's not a wide receiver, had to run the corner route, and the ball hit him in his hands first, then in the face, and no points were allowed for the Saints. And that was just one of many blunders. It's a bad team right now. The penalties, the self-inflicted mistakes. You can't win. You've always heard it is hard to win NFL games. Every single Sunday, it's hard to win if you don't do the little things correct. And right now, the Saints are just bad in 3 phases. I mean, the defense did hold them to 13 points, but the play by the Honey Badger in the end zone where he tips it up straight to the wide receiver, I mean, that's a bad bounce. But that's what happens to bad teams. You get the bad bounces because that's just the way football works sometimes. We're talking LSU football. We're kind of talking some more LSU versus Texas A&M this past Saturday from Kyle Field. We're going to have some highlights. We'll ask Alan in the truck, who's doing a great job by himself out there in the bus, to go ahead and roll those highlights. the few good plays LSU did have on offense and defense. John Emery had a good bounce-back game, Bud, man. Had the couple fumbles against UAB, but 3 touchdowns in a big spot for the Tigers against A&M.
Yeah, and I think the greatest thing that we saw with Emery is that he was holding on to the football after the last couple of games with the fumbles, and he was on fire. I thought they should have fed him the football a little bit more. Jaden Daniels, now we're back to the same old problem, the reluctance to release the football. I had a bunch of people that went, and they said the wide receivers were coming off the field pretty upset at times this past week.
Jaden Daniels went 21 of 35, only 189 yards, also had 12 caddies for the 84 yards, didn't get to the end zone himself. Here's John Emery on his first score. They had to review it, but Bud, man, it was good. Tied up the game at 7.
Yeah, don't ask the SEC to give you any favors with officiating over at Texas A&M. Once again, 3 or 4 bad calls with the pass interference and all the other stuff, but it goes with the territory, JP.
Yeah, I thought it was a terrible call, that 3rd and 10 holding on John Emery. And yeah, the one-handed catch by Muhammad, it was a great catch. Everybody freaks out. I thought he was kind of pushing off with that other hand.
Well, and look, the touchdown at the end of the game, I was always taught that if you catch the ball and you possess it and you've got 1 foot in, should be a touchdown. But look, bottom line is referees didn't cost them. I didn't think anybody had a great game. I don't think any of the players or the coaches, it was their best night.
Right. We've seen in college and pros, no one really knows what a catch is. Of course, you're referring to that Jenkins play in the back of the end zone. Catches it 2 feet in as he's going to the ground. The ball kind of comes out. I thought he caught it. It was kind of like a not going to the ground situation where the ground can't cause a fumble. He was already across the goal line. I agree. I thought it was a score.
All right, got to get some people back. Malik Neighbors, once again, the leading receiver in this game. Here we go. I like this little action. Where are all the opportunities for Mason Taylor? Look, I don't want to beat up Denbrock, but didn't think he had a good game with play calling.
Yeah, Mason Taylor had 3 targets, 2 catches, only 10 yards. Damian Reynolds did hit this 34-yarder. He was 1 for 1 on the night.
And look, in a game of this magnitude, you take a field goal when you can, but it just was not a pretty night. And as you alluded to, second half they came back and had a bunch of momentum, and then when you lost the fumble, it was tough sledding from there.
Yeah, as we mentioned, Achane gets 215 yards. Hard to win games, but man, if you can't stop the run, not only because they're moving the ball down the field, but they're chewing up so much clock.
LSU did not tackle well. That has been a problem at times this year. Jaden Daniels did not release the football. And when you sit back there 3 and 4 and 5 seconds, it just becomes frustrating for the receivers. Obviously, you got to put all that behind and move forward for this weekend.
Jay Roy did have a good game, 12 total tackles, 4 solo. Greg Penn also had a good game, 9 total for 3 solo. Hal Perkins only had 1 solo tackle, 2 total. Rough game for number 40.
Yeah, also Makai Wingo did not have a great game. I think he had a couple tackles. And here you go, once again, running hard, but I think all the wind just got lost. There's Noah Kane, and he's been very dependable this year.
Yeah, Noah Kane, 11 carries, 48 yards. Runs low to the ground, very balanced. He gets you the tough yards, a strong guy. Doesn't do a lot of talking, but, man, a team player just wants to play his role. I like Noah Kane.
We're taping on Tuesday, November the 29th. Here's Emery once again high-stepping, and you got to like to see this. Of course, he's doing a little poor man's gritty, but didn't want to get the flag. But I want to see John Emery continue to run like he did last weekend.
Yeah, that was the tie of the game, but, man, you started feeling good about the defense. They kind of made adjustments in the second half. Here it is tied. But we mentioned that scoop and score for Texas A&M, and that really turned the game on for the Aggies. And it didn't seem like LSU could really recover from that big momentum change.
Major Burns playing and making and of course here's what Daniels does best, and we know he's the fastest quarterback that LSU's ever had. Almost a targeting there, JP.
Yeah, he might have got him a little late into the slide. Jaden Daniels, it was not his best game, but man, 189 yards on 35 attempts. It's really not his game to be throwing the ball 35, 40 times in the game, but here's where he can really do damage right here. Extending plays with his legs. Still, played through the injury, but, man, took a helmet right to the knee, bounced back, tried to come back in. Of course, he did tweak the ankle. He was in a boot over the weekend, ran a running test yesterday. They're still trying to work out and see if he's going to be able, when he's going to be able to come back to practice, but expect Jaden Daniels to play.
I think we got to wait to see after practice tomorrow on a Wednesday his availability. Really need Jared Bernard Converse back.
Doubt.
And this is what I was trying to say earlier. We know how they played against Ole Miss and Florida and Alabama, but JP, they don't have enough depth to have a star corner miss a game. Josh Williams has been out 2 games, And, of course, now Daniels is not going to be 100%. So didn't understand Coach Kelly going for 2. I don't know if that was on the chart, the analytics or whatever.
Yeah.
But I questioned that decision. And as we know, there was enough blame to go around for everybody.
That's right. Coach Brian Kelly takes blame himself. They didn't do a good enough job to prepare his team to take on the A&M Aggies. And my wife's grandfather's an Aggie, a big-time Aggie, Bud, man. So this was not a fun game to sit through around the Poche household. He was loving it. Don't get me wrong. He had to sit through a tough season to face the Tigers and put it all together. But this is the kind of talent that this A&M team does have. If you don't bring your best game, this is a dangerous young athletic team.
They were one play away from beating Alabama over there.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, if you chop it up, A&M has more 4 and 5 stars on their roster than LSU. Remember, they spent 25 to 30 million last year on that recruiting class. Everybody's telling them how bad they look, how ugly they are, and they just were the better team. So let's give Jimbo. Now, I talked to a buddy of mine who's a big A&M fan, and they were happy with the win, but you know what they're worried about?
I don't. There's a lot of things they could be worried about, Bud, man.
Yeah, but with Jimbo and this pretty solid win, they were hoping that
he's going to lose and get out of here.
And they'd take away his play calling ability. Right. Jimbo now is going to go in there on that exit interview and say, look the way we played at that last game, if we're healthy, we were young, he's going to sell all those things. So, look, in case you missed it, Hugh Freeze is now the coach at Auburn. So, man, that's one thing that you got to give credit to Brian Kelly. Can you see the quality of coaches in the SEC West? Saban, Kiffin, obviously the Parrot, who you never know what you're going to get. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. I mean, you go on, and a national championship coach in Jimbo Fisher. So it's not a conference that's ever going to be easy. You got to bring your A game every week.
We'll take another break here on Tigers Roar. When we come back, we'll let you hear from head coach Brian Kelly himself, his Monday press conference. Looking forward to that SEC championship game against the Georgia Bulldogs. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it. This is Tigers Roar.
Tremonti's has meat. Tremonti's has seafood. Tremonti's has much more. Tailgating and home gating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tremonti's.com.
Make the most of every moment together in a 3-row Mazda CX-9. Find yours during the season of inspiration.
Make no payments for 90 days on a new CX-9 during the season of inspiration at Team Mazda.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Gallagher. This is Roy Fletcher. We hope you'll join us for Fletch Nation, especially if you like talking politics.
Hey, come and join us. We'll give you the information and then we'll give you the context. And by the way, we'll give you fun, too.
Lots of fun. We hit the local races, the state. We even look at what's going on all across America. And by the way, this space is available. If you'd like to talk about advertising, send your emails to Roy Fletcher at royfletcher.com and join us every week here on the Pelican for Fletch Nation.
Caught spiders. Premier Pest Services.
Every great story starts with the rush of thrilling gaming action. Handcrafted flavors, eager to please. Getaways for some well-deserved me time. And rewards worth bragging about. If it's a story worth telling, it starts at La Berge Baton Rouge. What's your story?
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Treads & Care Tire Company announces its new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for 50 years, Treads & Care is known for quality automotive repair with top-notch customer service. Treads & Care offers the convenience of shuttle service and pickup and delivery of your vehicle. You can also enjoy the comfortable customer area, complete with workstations, high-speed internet, and a complimentary coffee bar.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
Treads & Care, the tires you need and the service you want.
We continue here on Tigers Roar. Jonathan Poche joined by Buddy Songy. Remember, if you missed anything in this episode or previous episodes of Tigers Roar, go check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/Pelican Broadcasting. It's a great way to keep up with everything we do here at the Pelican. All the Tigers Roars, the Clarence Buggs Show, that and a whole lot more. We're starting out with this new show called The Drip, Budman. So a lot to check out on our YouTube page. Once again, check it out. While you're there, click subscribe so you get alerts every time that we post something new here at the Pelican. Continue with this LSU football talk, Budman. Coach Brian Kelly did hold his Monday press conference earlier this week as we tape here on a Tuesday, the 29th of November. Let us be the last to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a very happy holiday. And Budman, it was a rough weekend for football.
Yeah.
The Tigers dropped the game. The Saints lose, get shut out. High school season for a lot of high school teams ended this past weekend. And we still have the glasses on for one more segment, Budman, but we're going to turn the page, start looking forward towards this SEC championship.
Got to have a short memory when you play football, whether you coach it or not, and obviously everybody's disappointed. By the way, a special shout out to Jan and Kenny Bourgeois. They are loyal viewers, and they've come over here to Old School Barbecue and had a lot of fun. I had some drinks. I had some great food. And so, as always, we remind you to come on over here, and you love that Boss Hog.
That's right, the Boss Hog pulled pork sandwich. You can't beat it, Budman.
Can't beat it. Come by and see us. And but that all being said, I think you've got to put this in and wash it away and forget that LSU laid an egg. 9-3, all those things that we talked about. Now, what do you think? Which LSU team is going to show up? Is Jaden Daniels going to fling it? Now, here's one of the things I said. And, of course, you know, if I had $1 for every time I coached, I couldn't pay for a cup of coffee. But when a guy's holding it and you see him getting back into a bad habit, why don't you get rid of the football quick? Spread it out and throw it in space. Why can't you bring Kayshon Boutte in motion and throw it to him and let him – work? I know there's some frustration with Boutte and others, but when you see a guy not wanting to let it loose, I think you got to help him with play calling. I don't necessarily think that they did that. And John Embry, when the guy's holding on to it and he's hot, you got to run him more. Josh Williams is going to be back. As we said, we'll have updates later on in the week with the status of Jarek Bernard Converse as well as Jaden Daniels. But what do you think LSU has to do to be competitive in this game, JP?
Can't go down real early in the game. Can't go down by 14 in the first quarter if you want to stand a chance against this Georgia team. Matchup nightmares across the board, especially at that tight end spot. It's going to be a tough task for the defensive, the linebackers especially to cover. You talk about Brock Bowers, and then the other guy, the 6'7", 270 Darnell Washington, who looks like Eric Gilbert on steroids. I mean, the guy is like a UFC fighter, like a mountain of a man running a tight end. He's intimidating, Bud, man, and he brings a punch. And it's going to be a tall task to try to contain Stetson Bennett. I mean, the quarterback's done a good job, really mastered that offense that Coach Kirby Smart's crew requires him to play. I mean, he knows where the dump off is. He knows his first through fourth read. He understands what defense is trying to do to him, and he understands the position very well. But he's not a flashy guy. He makes the plays that are there in front of him. He's very careful with the football. So it's going to be a tough task for LSU.
Well, look, this is a copycat league, and they are going to see Auburn and Arkansas and A&M all played very similar defenses. You're rushing 3. Maybe you send a late guy with 4, but you're trying to get Jaden Daniels uncomfortable with his reads, and that's why I was saying you got to get rid of the ball quicker, and you got to be a little creative, got to tackle better. I think the guys were tired. No disrespect to anybody. It looked like they ate too much turkey. We all did, but we don't play.
Yeah.
They looked a half a step slower. But if that Georgia offensive line pushes LSU 4 or 5 yards down the field like A&M did, I don't think he has to get crazy. You made a great point. If you let, and I've been in that dome before, when they have momentum, if you let that crowd get in the game, if this thing starts 10-0, 17-3 by the end of the first quarter, it is going to be a long, long afternoon in Atlanta. So got to have a strong start, and I would just tell Jaden Daniels, you've got to throw the football and release it. If he's not doing it, if he's hesitant, you've got to give him some short stuff to throw. And now with the bad ankle and the foot in the boot, you can't depend on him being able to run for 100 yards in this game.
If it was me, if I'm the coach, Bud, man, I'd bring a little bit of the flu strand back into the locker room for the next upcoming game. They played really well after they caught that bug. I'm just saying, get a little touch of the bug. They said it was a 24-hour thing. Everybody was fine, and they all played really well against Arkansas. So, hey, we'll see what happens. LSU certainly appreciates the opportunity to go against the #1 team to win an SEC championship in Coach Crowley's first year would be huge, Bud, man.
B.J. Ojulari's brother played at the University of Georgia. And B.J., of course, I'm the DA here that predicted B.J. would have 9 or 10 sacks this year. Looking for a big game from him. He is from the state of Georgia. Allie Gay, great to see his parents come in and watch him in that UAB game, first time ever. But got to do a better job. Now, Jaquelin Roy made some money. 7 unassisted tackles and 5 assisted. So got to tackle better. Micah Baskerville did not have his best game. They missed a lot of tackles. Greg Penn. And you got to figure out a way to let Harold Perkins be more involved on the defense. But here's the problem when you're 220. You get a 320-pound offensive lineman that knows how to hold. He's not that hard to block, JP.
All right, well, here is head coach Brian Kelly. Wrapped up his first regular season as the head coach of LSU. Looking forward to this opportunity to take on the #1 team in Georgia Bulldogs for his SEC championship this weekend in Atlanta. Here is head coach Brian Kelly on Tigers Roar.
Obviously, it's exciting to be able to play for conference championship. We've certainly feel like we've earned the opportunity to be here by the play on the field, and we're excited about the opportunity to represent SEC West and playing the #1 team in the country. Georgia's again proven themselves to be the best team, and we're excited about that challenge. We know it's going to be a tough challenge, but we're certainly up for this chance to win the SEC. That's what you play it for, and I know our guys are excited about it. Again, it's an outstanding football team. There's so many superlatives. Whether you go on offense and talk about Stetson Bennett, or you go defensively and you talk about some of the biggest defensive linemen and most active linebackers with Johnson and certainly inside with Carter and Beal. This is just a well-coached, consistent football team. But our guys have, had the opportunity to play the best, and this is another opportunity for us to be challenged. And so we're excited about the opportunity. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
First, just to check on Jarek Brown, Converse, what his status is. And also, this was always kind of a makeshift year at corner. I guess, how would you evaluate it now you're 12 games in on how that group did, a lot of moving around and whatnot?
Well, we're playing for the SEC West Championship. I think that's a pretty good answer to that. But Jarek is he will practice on Tuesday, non-contact. If he gets through that non-contact practice, then he'll be fully cleared. So we're expecting that he'll be back for us. I think our guys have done a really good job. I mean, putting together a secondary when you didn't have one is not where you want to be. And I thought that they've, really hung in there all year. We've used a number of guys at that position to hold it down. And, obviously the latest with Jay Ward playing the corner. And he played really well. So really proud of the fact that we've been able to move new players into those positions and obviously get us to the SEC West Championship.
Coach, right up the middle. Could you give us an update on Jaden? You did yesterday on the teleconference.
Yeah, nothing more.
I'm sorry. Could we get it in person just for the TV sake?
Sure. Yeah. So the update on how do I start? Can you give me a? I got it. Yeah. Right. Give me that for some plays too when you get a chance. Yeah. So he's been evaluated. He's in a walking boot. We'll keep him in that boot today, and then tomorrow he'll go in for his exam. And really, this is about, strength. He'll go on the Alter G today, so he'll run with no, obviously, force, and keep him conditioned even through today, which is a weight training and film study day. And then tomorrow he'll go through a manual exam where effectively he's got to be able to get up on his toes. If he's able to do that, then we're ready to go for Tuesday. How'd I do? Good. Thanks.
I have a different type question. So, it's a good problem to have, obviously, but some coaches in the past have said how playing in the championship game makes it difficult with the early signing period, with recruiting and stuff like that. Is it compounded by where the transfer portal is now, and how are you dealing with it? Like I said, again, you want to have this issue, but it's still an issue.
No doubt. There's no question about it. So, our situation is different because, most teams that are not playing in a championship game are out on the road recruiting today, and certainly we're preparing for the game. So, we can't be out recruiting at this point. So you lose that opportunity. But recruits know that we're preparing for a championship game, so you gain that back on the other end. Next week is where it really gets interesting, right? So the transfer portal opens on the 5th. We certainly want to be able to recruit, but we want to obviously set our own roster as well. So it's balancing setting your own roster, evaluating your team, exit interviews, doing those kinds of things, while you're also recruiting and keeping an eye on the portal. So you've got a few balls up in the air next week. And then our guys are in exams. So, it lends itself to where we don't have to be hands-on. We can turn them over to our strength and conditioning staff. It's just a matter of balancing how much time we spend with the guys in terms of one-on-ones so we can set our roster, who's coming back, who wants to go to the NFL, who may want to go in the transfer portal. All those things we have to take care of and set our roster here at LSU, as well as look at the portal, and we got to recruit those that are coming in as mid-years. So 3 balls up in the air at one time next week.
Yeah, I've been able to ask you this question a lot this year. You've apparently played a lot of teams from the SEC. You played Georgia recently twice.
Yes.
Impressions of playing them when you did in 17 and 19, and then also – do you take anything at all from those games for this week?
Not really. I mean, structure defensively is very similar. I mean, certainly the personnel is different, but structure is the same. You know what you're going to get. Offensively, they're a little bit different with Coach Monken. He's got a creative bent to him that's a little bit different than what they had in 17 and 19. But there's similarities there that, we take as a crossover more than anything else. And again, this then becomes, how do you handle Brock Bowers? How do you handle some of the matchup situations that you have to deal with? The quarterback is totally different. And, I think, structure is one thing in terms of knowing what the structure looks like, but then you have to game plan against individuals, and I think that's where this becomes a little bit different.
Coach, obviously, you've been around a long time and watched plenty of SEC ball coaching.
Long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Thank you.
Many years. When you joined the SEC West then and you thought about what it was to go through a year, how does that compare to now? I guess what was the biggest takeaway from being a head coach in the West?
This past weekend, how you have to bring your best each and every week. If you don't bring your best, you'll get beat. And so I think that to me, more than anything else, is the takeaway. You cannot play without the energy and the identity of your football team, there's just too many talented players. And if you're not ready to play and play at your best, you'll get beat. That's the SEC West.
Coach, what would it mean to win the SEC championship, regarded as the top conference in America, especially after what you inherited and the situation you were in a year ago?
Yeah, I think it would be obviously something that we would all feel great about in our first year here at LSU. But I think, overall, it's hard to win SEC championships. It's so hard. I mean, there's so many good teams. We've just talked about how you have to play week to week in the regular season. But to get there and then win it all, it's that's why somebody asked me yesterday about do you think that if they expand the playoffs that an SEC championship would be devalued? And I said, absolutely not. You don't know what you have to go through to actually get here. And that's why I think it would never be devalued, and it would be such a huge thing for this football program.
Brian, down here. You've talked obviously a lot this year about processes, and that's kind of been like the key to your program in general in this season. When did you feel like maybe the players had finally kind of adopted those things and those things were clicking in terms of I guess off the field processes and all that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's like anything else. When you put in a new way of doing things, new standards, it's like anything in life. You go to a new business or a new operation, there's a new way of doing things. That just takes time. I don't know that we're there yet. I think the first year is really, setting those standards, making sure that they understand. I think we're at that level of, conscious competence. We know what to do. We know how to do it, but it's really hard for us. And we want to get to, where it's unconscious competence. We don't have to think about it. It's just we do it, and we do it the right way every day. And I think it's still a process for us. They understand it a lot better. So I think that's where that level is, but we still have another level to go.
Hey, Coach, right here. You're going up against a 6'7", 270-pound tight end this week. How do you combat that?
Hope they don't throw it to him. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes, we break this game down to, one player against one. You're hoping that in some situations that your zone coverage where you have somebody underneath them over the top. Because really, if you look at it, if it's just a one-on-one situation, he's a pretty, unique athlete, and that he can line up and has lined up at wide receiver. That's not a great matchup for anybody. So, you've got to take some of those things away. You've got to be able to help with underneath coverage, over the top. Sometimes there's bracket situations where you've got a corner with an inside backer and a safety, and that triangle kind of takes away throwing lanes, because if it's just as simple as one guy versus one guy, that's not a favorable situation. But you may get that sometimes, and you're hoping the pass rush gets there. You're hoping that Stetson can't find him, things of that nature, because it is a matchup issue.
And that was head coach Brian Kelly. Running short on time in this segment. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and finish up talking about some LSU football. Looking forward to the SEC championship this coming weekend. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, against the #1 Georgia Bulldogs. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. You are watching Tigers Roar.
Taste the feeling.
Hello,
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, gang. Clarence Buggs here, inviting you to come by Old School Barbecue, 10655 Coursey Boulevard, where we tape the show live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 o'clock. Come by and feast on news, sports, current events, love of God and country, and lots of common sense, along with some of the best barbecue anywhere on the planet. 10655 Coursey Boulevard, Old School Barbecue, home of the Clarence Buggs Show.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing.
You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystonecountryClub.com.
Right now, at both locations of Team Honda, the Dream Deal sales event is now even better. For a limited time, get 0% financing on a great selection of certified Hondas. The savings are yours at Team Honda on Segan Lane in Baton Rouge and Team Honda of Acadiana on I-49 just south of Opelousas.
And we continue here on Tigers Roar. Jonathan Poche with Buddy Songy. We've taken the shades off, turning the page, Bud, man. Looking forward to the SEC Championship this coming weekend. Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, number 11 LSU Tigers, whereas number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia has proven that they were the best team all year, Bud, man. Consistent winners. They were tested in a couple games, but they've handled business. I mean, that's a consistent team.
They were lucky to win on the road against Missouri, which won a late game the other day to get to 6-6 and go to a bowl. I think I saw this, JP. Every team in the SEC bowl eligible other than Texas A&M. And I got to mention this because we know that CBS is losing the contract in a couple of years. So I'm watching all these football games, and you watch Ohio State, Michigan early on, and you watch some of these other games, you get an idea of what everybody looks like. And then, so I turned to the second half of Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler on the CBS call with the Iron Bowl. And, of course, Cadillac Williams is a great story. As we know, Hugh Freeze came in here, and he's going to keep Cadillac. But Cadillac worked his butt off and had those guys believing, kind of bonded their culture. But there it starts in the late third quarter. Gary Danielson starting to lobby for the Crimson Tide. Now, I've seen Gary in person, and he literally has a knee pad that says that Nick on the left knee and Saban on the right knee. So you know they're the fair-headed child in the SEC, and you know they're going to get the calls. But now I'm sitting in here, JP, I could not stand it. I had to turn the TV off. Yep. But he's sitting there, and it's like 42-27 or whatever. He goes like, now this is an important drive. You want Alabama to send a message that they deserve. Granted, Alabama was supposed to be great this year. They're not great on defense, and they lost 2 tough games to Tennessee and LSU in overtime. That all being said, CFP tonight at 6 o'clock. Here's what I'm thinking. You tell me, check or no check. Georgia 1, Michigan 2.
Check.
TCU 3, USC 4.
Check.
Ohio State 5, Alabama 6.
Yeah, check.
Now, Ohio State does have a very weak strength of schedule.
Right. How far does Ohio State drop was my if on that.
And so they got hammered. So as we know, look, you want the West Coast in. USC plays Utah. They did have their only loss, a 1-point loss to Utah earlier in the year. That's Friday night at 7 if you want to watch that. TCU, JP, Brian Holland with WVLA said, I think USC is going to be 3 and TCU is going to be 4. they've got a stronger strength of schedule. Plus, they're undefeated, so I like TCU. But anybody who ends up playing TCU in the first round of the semis is probably getting a break.
Yeah, TCU's done a great job this year. Their coach got to be up for Coach of the Year. I mean, Sykes, Coach
Sonny Dykes.
Dykes, that's right.
Sonny Dykes has done a fantastic job. Expect him to be the National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, LSU certainly appreciates the opportunity they have to win the SEC. But, man, going into the SEC championship game with 3 losses, did drop a game against A&M they should have won. Without that first game against Florida State, who knows what the conversation would be at this point of the season. But in your opinion, how far ahead of schedule is LSU under Brian Kelly's first year?
You know, it's hard to say, but when you cut up the players and the depth and the schedule and all the things that have transpired, I think they're slightly ahead of schedule.
Slightly ahead.
Most people will agree with this. This is probably going to be the worst Brian Kelly team that he has at LSU. And so now we have these interesting tidbits. Is Jaden Daniels going to come back next year? If he doesn't come back, now you got Nussmeier and Walker Howard competing for the starting job. If he does come back, and you know Walker Howard's not real patient, so does Nuss go into the transfer portal? You talk about some of those seniors that were not honored on senior day. Are they all coming back? John Emery has not done all the things that they asked him to do, but and he's had fumbling problems. Is he going to be back? But recruiting is now they did have a couple of decommitments in case you missed it. Darren Reed is a defensive tackle, and they had to give him some NIL money because he changed his commitment from LSU to Auburn before they had even named the new coach. And Joshua Mickens, who's from Indiana, really good edge rusher from the outside, went to Ohio State the last couple of weekends, so he's moved and decommitted to LSU. But they still are doing great things. What areas you think LSU needs to recruit and bring in?
Well, got to have the big uglies up front. You can never have enough offensive and defensive linemen. Of course, you got to bring in some more talent in the secondary. You kind of piecemeal this secondary group together. I think they've done a great job for Coach Brian Kelly. Stepped up, competed each and every game, but got to add some depth in the secondary, I believe. Get LSU back to that DBU standard that they always had. That and up in the front. Look, the quarterback room is going to be crowded. So will the running back room. LSU also has 2 very good commits out of the state of Louisiana. So, yeah, they're going to be okay at the wide receiver spot. They're going to be okay at the running back spot. But up front, look, you can never have enough big uglies on your roster, bud, man.
Yeah. And look, some people are telling me that Zalance Hurd is going to come in here and be a factor. Of course, Will Campbell's had a great year at left tackle. I certainly think there's a chance that he makes freshman All-American. I think that there's a chance Harold Perkins makes freshman All-American. Emory Jones might make first-team freshman All-SEC. He's still got a ways to go. Obviously, there's some other talent, but as you addressed, got to get some big uglies.
Oh, yeah.
They'll have a lot of these edge rushers with great speed coming in here. Got to get some linebackers. And as you alluded to, Toviano Ricks, got a safety from Ole Miss. They are in good shape if they can just finish. Oh, by the way, believe it or not, folks, the early national signing day is 3 weeks from tomorrow. So we'll get Mike Scarborough on with us in the next couple of shows to give us the ins and outs, and we'll see. But here's the thing, JP. Now, remember this, folks, on this rebuild. Unlimited Scallies this year as long as you don't exceed 85. So Coach Kelly said that they are going to be juggling 2 or 3 things. Transfer portal opens the Monday after the SEC championship game. So you got to see who you got to re-recruit on your team. Got to see who's leaving in the transfer portal. Got to see who you can get in transfer portal. Got to recruit the high schoolers. And it's a lot of work, but they stay on top of this stuff. And I think LSU will be appreciably better with more depth next year. Hell, everybody but Jeray Jenkins and Butte coming back on the offense if Daniels returns.
Got to have our last break of the evening. We'll come back and put a big old bow on this episode of Tigers Roar. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Audible. Here we go, bud, man. They love to do it to us. We're staying here. Call an audible last minute. That's okay.
Yeah, every now and then
TV.
you got you're a good audibleizer.
You got to stay on your toes, bud, man. We talked about LSU's progress. We talked about looking forward to this SEC championship game. Win or lose, bud, man. LSU is going to end up with at least 9 wins in Coach Brian Kelly's first season. Going to be looking like we're going to get a pretty decent bowl. Probably not a New Year's Six, Bud, man. If maybe we beat A&M and then lost to Georgia. I'm not saying LSU has no shot in the game, but realistic money, you don't really expect them to go to Atlanta and manhandle the number 1 team in the nation.
3:10 on CBS Saturday afternoon. I think Georgia's in, even if they would miraculously lose this game. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, there have been bigger underdogs in this SEC championship game. There's been a couple times where Florida and I think Bama were 24-point favorites. So 17.5. If we get word that Jaden Daniels isn't going to play, that thing's probably going to skyrocket to 20, 21. That being said, I think the real key, you mentioned earlier, got to start faster and got to have a little belief that you can play. Got to somehow get the confidence. What do you think it is with Jaden Daniels and his propensity? When he's on, he slings it without hesitation. And when he's not, you just can't sit back there for 3 or 4 seconds and then invariably running.
I think it kind of goes back to what Coach Brian Kelly said. You know, these guys came in with their entire football careers having done things a certain way. Jaden Daniels has been by far the fastest man on the field in every game he's played on before this season. He is not used to having to check down as a quarterback. If he sees a lane, in his brain instinct, I can make it through there. He's never seen a hole he didn't think he can get through. So I think that kind of affects his decision-making process through his progressions. When he knows how easy it is for him to run and get those yards, he's not trying to wait and see, maybe I can throw it into this window and then take a lick. He's just trying to get that shirt 3 or 4 yards. And look, Jaden Daniels was never going to come in and be Peyton Manning, pocket passer, break you down, go to his 5th progression, throw it all over the field. That wasn't going to be his game. I think he's gotten a little bit more away from having to rely on that read option to start every single play. He has progressed his game with his footwork and his accuracy, but for what he's done for LSU in this year, the talk about him coming back or not, you could have never expected a kid from Arizona State would come in, dominate the way he had, still have very few turnovers on the year, both through the air and on the ground. What he's done for this program has been immeasurable for Coach Brian Kelly in this first year.
Hey, listen, when we first saw him, he had gotten to LSU. He had 3 or 4 days, I think it was 3 days before he started spring practice, didn't even know their names. Of course, they tried to buy him this summer. Look, 15 touchdown passes and 2 INTs, and 11 rushing touchdowns and 3 fumbles. However, we must throw this in. The last 2 SEC games, 0 touchdown passes and 3 turnovers. So you got to clean that up. I think it's a bright future for LSU fans, and you just have to have a little patience. And if you're going to the game, just get ready to bring your A game, because it will be a challenge for not only the fan base, but the coaches and players.
Got to give a shout out to Southern head football coach Eric Dooley, a big win over Grambling in this weekend's Southern Classic, 34-17. The defense played outstanding, had 2 scores for Coach Eric Dooley's squad. Bichon McCray, also the quarterback for Southern, had a good game, ran for a score. Also, shout out Coach Willie Fritz, had a big win this weekend against Cincinnati.
You buying Willie Fritz going to Georgia Tech?
But Willie Fritz is getting a raise. He's going somewhere. He's done a great job for the program. They've gotten better each year. They've had a couple big wins. They play against UCF this upcoming weekend. UCF just beat them a couple weeks back, so it's going to be a big game this weekend, Tulane.
In case you missed it, AP voted Lane Kiffin the best college coach with a Twitter account. Oh, by the way, 7-0 start. Finished 8-4. Guy is still never won a national championship of any kind at any of his teams.
We certainly appreciate you tuning into this episode of Tigers Roar. If you missed anything in this episode, please go to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Pelican Broadcasting. It's a great way to keep up with everything we do here at the Pelican. All your Tigers Roars are archived there for your viewing pleasure. So go check it out while you're there. Click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you know everything we post something new here at the Pelican. A big shout out to AT out in the truck. Couldn't do it without him driving the bus by himself. Our Florida rector, Marty. I'm Jonathan Poche. For the Budman, Buddy Songy, we appreciate you watching Tigers Roar.